Cars with underrated power figures on paper are more common than you would think. It happened plenty of times in the past, and it keeps happening even today. Why? Reasons vary, and sometimes people outside the factory, like me or you, won't ever know. Certain cars, you may or may not know, make more power, and these are the impressive, real-world figures. Nissan Skyline GT-R. The Skyline GT-R is the #1 car which everybody knows as being underrated on paper. While it is partially true, Nissan actually did not lie about the Skyline GT-R's power output. It did produce around 280 horsepower, but at the wheels. So if we add the powertrain losses of roughly 15%, the result is 320 horsepower at the crankshaft. Not only that, the engine has a boost limiter which can be removed to gain even more ponies. Supposedly, it wouldn't even void your warranty. Chevrolet Corvette Stingray L88. The C3 Corvette is one of the most beautiful muscle cars of the 60s. It was also powered by a large variety of V8s. One of them was quite special, as not only did it produce more power than advertised, it was designed for racing. The big block L88 had race pack cams, high flow aluminum heads, a cold air intake, and a high compression ratio of 12.5:1. The 430 horsepower figure wasn't its peak power, as the engine actually made at least 100 more horses, somewhere between 560 and 580 horsepower at around 6500 RPM. Dodge Challenger Hellcat. The Hellcat twins caused a big craze regarding their power output. The 6.2-liter supercharged engine was supposed to make 707 horsepower and 650 foot-pound in imperial units. However, several independent dyno tests have proved that the Hellcat made closer to 750 horsepower with around 685 rear-wheel horsepower. With that, the torque figure was higher by a figure of 30, rated at 920 Nm or 680 foot-pound. That makes the most powerful sedan in the world even more powerful, although not officially. Ford GT. Following the racing success of the GT40, the first Ford GT was installed with a 5.4-liter supercharged engine from the Ford Modular Engine series. The 4-valve per cylinder unit was said to have 550 horsepower, which turned out to be a lie, which was great for the owners. Actually, the GT made between 520 and 550 at the wheels, which adds up to 630 crankshaft horsepower. That's 80 more horsepower than advertised. Volkswagen Golf GTI. German manufacturers have cheated on power figures quite often in the last few years. One of the most notable examples would be the Golf GTI, which recently underwent a facelift. Anyhow, the GTI in stock trim has advertised 220 horsepower, 230 if you ordered the performance pack with a limited slip diff. In reality, 250 plus horsepower at the crank for the less powerful variant. Similar results were found when testing the Škoda Octavia RS, which has the very same unit. No surprise journalists like their power band so much. Dodge Neon SRT4. Power outputs of the Neon SRT4 vary quite a bit. It is because over the years the SRT4 was modified and early models make a little less power. Nevertheless, they still have a stronger punch than on paper, as their real horsepower is somewhere between 215 and 240 horsepower. That would be around 245 to 280 horsepower at the crank from the factory. Pretty nice for an 05 front wheel drive. A BMW 540i. Yes, a luxurious V8 sedan fooled us into thinking it is slower than it actually is. The difference is rather minor, but not that small to be negligible. As standard, the E39 540i is good for 286 horsepower. You should see an output of 305 horsepower on the rolling road, as it is measured at 260 to 270 wheel horsepower. Most likely, the same would go for the 7 Series, equipped with the same engine. Ford Falcon FPV GTF. Recently, the Ford Falcon discontinued production, sold with the Barra Inline 6 and V8. The 5-liter unit was sort of misleading of its power output. The reason being is that, as advertised, the car produced 477 horsepower, which is true, but on top of that, there was the overboost function, which, as we know, has usually a short duration. However, the ECU in the GTF allowed the overboost to take place for an infinite time as long as the coolant temperature was fine. Reaching 540 plus horsepower, that would be almost 70 more unofficial horses. Jaguar F-Type V8S. Spiritually succeeding the legendary E-Type, the F-Type is beautiful, extraordinary, loud and vulgar. It also isn't honest with its horsepower output in the case of the V8S convertible. It is sort of a downgraded F-Type R, but it actually makes a little more than Jaguar said. The stock 495 horsepower output is exceeded roughly by 30 ponies, as dyno tests showed figures of 450 wheel horsepower. MotorTrend also noted that the car feels more powerful than its actual advertised power. Ferrari F40. As the last Ferrari supercar Enzo Ferrari experienced, the F40 used the IHI twin-turbocharged engine from its predecessor, the 288 GTO. Finally, it was even faster than the more powerful Ferrari F50, which is a little strange when you think of it. Both weigh roughly the same, and the later model has about 40 more horsepower. The trick could be that Ferrari wasn't completely honest with the F40's power output. Rumors say it has something over 500 horsepower.